All right, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about a story that I think it's disgusted me, and it's, I think, also gotten to the hearts and souls of a lot of South Africans as well. It was that incident that happened in the Dros. It was last week, I think, where a 20-year-old man was arrested in connection with the rape of a child at a Dros restaurant in Pretoria. Now, he is expected to appear in court tomorrow. Images of the suspect and a very disturbing video of him covered in blood and naked, allegedly after committing the crime, went viral last week. But the circulation of the clip has been widely discouraged, as sharing the footage could jeopardize the legal processes of the case. So to discuss this further, we are joined from our studios in Sea Point, Cape Town, by Dr David Klatzowa. He's a forensic science expert who's investigated thousands of criminal cases, including the murder of mining magnate Brett Kebble back in 2005. Dr Klatzowa, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your listeners.
So you've got extensive experience in this field. You've worked on different criminal cases. Have you ever come across a case such as this particular one?
No. One's come across cases exactly the same, where there's been rape, where there's been the most dreadful crimes committed. But the issue as to whether you publicize and whether you name and shame and whether you interfere with the court process in the way that is being happened has never come my way before, thank goodness.
So, you know, we talk about, okay, let's get into the legalities of the case and how one should handle it. So obviously a crime has been committed, and Twitter obviously went insane. Once they had found the name, they'd found a photograph of the perpetrator, and they were sharing it. Now, what happens in a case like this?
Well, justice requires a two-component consideration. Firstly, there's got to be justice for the victim, and secondly, there's got to be justice for the perpetrator. The moment that you start to interfere with the process in the way that you've done now, you interfere with, number one, the possibility, if there's any question later on about identification, you interfere with that, because there can no longer be an independent identification once you've published this man's face over the internet and over the world. So that's the first thing, and that could be a serious component to the courts deciding that this is an unfair proceeding. So that is likely to produce injustice for both parties. The second thing is that it is illegal to do that before the man has appeared in court, before he's been formally charged, and before he's pleaded. So a crime has been committed from that point of view. And the third thing, of course, that one needs to remember is that if there has been some mix-up, if there has been some mistake, this man has been defamed all over the world. And remember that publicizing things on Twitter makes you party to a defamation, and certainly would make you liable for defamation action should one be brought, should the original material be defamatory.
Yeah. And this, I mean, these are legalities, and this is the way that the law operates. But it seems that nobody has abided by these rules. In fact, we saw Sunday newspapers yesterday publishing his photograph, naming the man accused, and going out very publicly. We know it's been in social media all the time, but when the media starts doing this, again, the repercussions on this.
Well, the repercussions are serious. It's not for the media to take a decision as to the rightness or wrongness of it. They need to abide by the rules like everybody else does. And it is, if I may say so, it is outrageous that they should be disregarding the law in such a cavalier manner. And they could jeopardize the proceedings significantly by this irresponsible behavior. I think that they need to calm down. And although one can start off by saying that it is a heinous crime to assault a young child in this way, or for that matter to assault anybody in this way, but it is a heinous crime, but one should not let emotions rule the roost here. One should make certain that one follows this in a clear, cold and clinical way to prevent the whole system from being overturned.
Yeah. You know, it's a difficult situation because once again, and I touch on a sensitive issue because race has now come into play, and you're finding that some people are saying they didn't want to identify him purely because he was a white man, but if he was a black man, he would have been identified straight away. But I'm not sure. This is where things become very complicated when emotions get involved. But that it certainly is not the case. It's what the law is that you're stipulating and speaking to.
I don't know why race has to come into this at all. It's equally wrong whether he's white or black to identify him. And I don't see any difference between the two situations. Neither should be identified. And I certainly don't jump to the conclusions that if he were black, he would have been identified. And I would be equally critical, by the way, had he been identified.
If we look at so far how this case has evolved and how we've seen things coming out on social media, we've seen photographs, we've seen him named, we've seen his fiancée, we've seen everything. I mean, from what we've been reporting on this story, we basically know where he lives, we know everything about him. Do you believe that this case has been compromised in any way?
Yes, I do. And you must remember that there's another component to the whole thing, and that is that there is a very real danger of public taking the law into their own hands and harming this person before he stood trial. And we've seen that on many an occasion in this country where people have been named, where there was a case not that long ago of a very well-known soccer player who was named and who was arrested within days of another murder and who was, had to be released, but not after there was significant public violence against him. It's very, very, very irresponsible to do this. You need to let the courts do their job, and you don't want the public interfering in an emotional way. It is really likely to compromise this case unless we stop this right now.
All right, I'm going to take a very quick break and we'll continue to talk about this. And I also urge viewers, if you've got any questions you would like to sort of ask with regard to this case or any other cases of a similar nature, and just how things have changed since the advent of social media, because this is not the first time that we've seen a perpetrator being named, photographs being circulated on social media. You know, it is a different world we're living in since these laws have come about. So let's talk about that, all of this and more after the break. Do stay tuned.